Welcome back. Today our world news takes us to India. Now, for a lot of us, we've been seeing this article hit India, this bombing of the convention site assembly in India. Now, there's the news, all the after effects. Now, remember, India, they have 20 ministers or 20 people they put on this right away, investigating all the different avenues of the Jehovah's Witness religion. So these are some of the things that are coming out. We looked at some of the news articles, and we're going to get right at it. The newspaper that we're looking at today is the Swarajaya. Did I say that right? Let me say it right here. I'll just put it on. Did you get that?
Swarajya.
Swarajya, something like that. Anyways, I'm only going to say it that once. So this newspaper, just to give you an idea, it's nice to know what kind of a news article that's reporting on Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom here, and so I got to say it again. Swarajya is a publication by the Kovia Media Private Limited. And Swarajya is a big tent for liberal right of central discourse that reaches out, engages, and caters to the new India. So it's more of a liberal right wing kind of a thing. You know, it's like in the US you have Fox News and then you have CNN. You know, they're totally right and left of each other. So it's similar there. They're more liberal in this one. So this article, keep that in mind as we read through it. Now, I'm just going to read this article straight through because it says it all. So here we go. Here's the picture of what happened, the bombing, and there's the culprit, the guy that set the bombs, Dominic Martin. He claimed responsibility. Now, here's what the newspaper's featuring to a whole bunch of districts in India, this paper. It says the ideological gap between a largely peaceful Jehovah's Witnesses and a violent communism or jihadism is not that large. Here they are, they're comparing Jehovah's Witnesses to a violent communism or jihadism. Let's see how they get to that. It says here that they are essentially questionable ideas, implying a false and non-inclusive idea of universalism. They must be abandoned. That's what the newspaper is headlining. So it says here, in the recent Kerala blasts, one self-confessed perpetrator by the name of Dominic Martin said he set off the bombs at the Jehovah's Witness convention because they promoted the wrong ideology. This Christian sect believes in the end of days theory, where the kingdom of God will one day replace all human governments. They obviously do not believe in the concept of nationhood. Now, some of this might be new to us, this concept of nationhood, Put in the comments if you want to know more about that. We'll do a video on it. Now, it goes on to say there is only one truth under one God. Theirs. And this is what the newspaper is saying about Jehovah's Witnesses. It's saying that they will thus not salute any flag or serve in the armed forces or involve themselves in war. For more on what this group is all about, read this primer here. So they have a little primer on this about Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's see where it takes us. We'll let it load for a while here. I don't know if it's going to load. I haven't tried that. So anyways, here it's coming up. The Indian Express. So we read some of these articles on the blast, and this one's full of a lot of advertising. So we all know who Jehovah's Witnesses are on this channel, but they're going over to show their people more about Jehovah's Witnesses. So Jehovah's Witnesses are relatively new to India. This has reached a lot of India now in a very negative way. This cannot be positive news to a religion when you're compared to Jihadism. Did I say that right? Jihadism. and Western universalism. That's what they're comparing this religion to. Okay, so let's carry on. It says, this ideology be considered quaint and cute as long as the idea is just an idea. Talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses. It does not involve violence and is restricted to a microscopic minority. So they're saying, as long as it's just very small, it's not a big deal. Then they go on to say, one wonders why Martin would think this tiny Christian group should pose such a threat to anybody and that they needed to be dealt with violently. Our dharmic culture has enough space in it for allowing such diversity of thought. The problem, though, is not with the idea itself, but its extension. If only one idea about God is right, it does not matter if the group that originally believed in it is small or non-violent. For ideas can be bent to suit other political and imperialists' ends. For example, the Jews were one of the first people to accept the idea of one God. The Egyptians under Pharaoh and the Zoroastrians in Persia were two other groups who propagated the same idea before Moses. Interesting. Didn't know that. But what was the benign idea for the Jews? They did not seek to shove it down the throats of non-chosen people around them, and became lethal when early Christians took it up and decided that only their God and religion had the right to survive. They destroyed entire civilizations using the idea of one true God. Centuries later, a prophet of Arabia took the idea one step further and created Ummah, a nationless people ruled by one true God, Allah, whose eternal truths were revealed through his last prophet, Mohammed. The only difference between the Jehovah's Witness idea of the kingdom of God under Jesus and the Ummah under Allah is his rightfully guided prophet and later caliphs, and that the later were willing to use force, violence, and intimidation to enforce the ideology of religious imperialism. So here they are comparing Jehovah's Witness, the whole idea of this one God under Jesus. It's the same as Allah. It's the same as these other groups that are using force to push their one God. They all start with ideas. And so what this Indian paper is saying, it's the same idea. It's the same thing. And I agree with them. Now, it goes on to say, beyond Christianity and Islam, there is communism, which too had an ideology that sought to erase nations under a God who was not God, but still had a book and a prophet, and many rightfully guided caliphs ruling under him. So it talks about Lenin, Stalin, Mo, Pol, and Pot, whatever that is. I'm not big on history. So it says a benign idea, when adopted by a Jehovah's Witness, becomes lethal under others. So this is false universalism, a curse. What is wrong is the sheer idea that there can only be one God, one people, one truth, and one way to do anything. There may be one truth, but humans cannot but see it in different ways, is how they quoted this Ekam Sat Bahuda something. So it goes on to say, Western universalism is a curse that seeks to destroy others and their version of the truth. It does not matter whether this truth is about God or his creations. It is essentially about creating a binary to pit us against them, our God versus their demon, our truth versus your falsehood. The ideological gap between a largely peaceful Jehovah's Witness and a violent communism or Jihadism is not that large. They are essentially questionable ideas implying a false and non-inclusive idea of universalism. They must be abandoned. End of article. So yes, that's the end of the article. I'll make a link to it in the description below. And then if you guys want to read it and go into this, you can. So that brings an end to the news, the thin line that separates Jehovah's Witnesses from Jihadism and Western universalism. It's very thin. This whole idea that our God is going to be the ruler of everybody. So thanks again, folks, and until next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.